So when I was in 6th grade, which was the start of my middle school, was when I got my first phone, which was the iPhone SE Generation 1, and that came out in 2016. So it's about 10 years old today. And quite honestly, I thought I recycled it or gave it away or something, until a few weeks ago I was going through my closet and there it was, laying there in its very used state. It definitely took a few basketballs head on and a few pocket slips, that's for sure. But I'm gonna be just revisiting everything about this phone, from the design, the features, and things like the cameras, which I know will get a little bit interesting. But the first thing that really stands out just having it in front of me is the size. Like, to put it into perspective, the iPhone minis, their screens are still a whole inch bigger. This is going to be impossible to type on. This was the rose gold color, which I think looks really good still. And it's just very a clean, minimalistic kind of design. And unfortunately, that entire aesthetic is ruined if you switch it to the front. That's pretty bad. Sorry in advance that you're gonna have to look at that. But I think Apple should add back a phone in the $400 to $500 price range, because the SEs really did have some great value. But again, as we'll get to a little bit later, even though this is the budget phone from 10 years ago, the cameras, camera, did do something pretty unique. And that was, this was the first 4-inch phone that could record in 4K. And I mean, generally, I'm always a fan of unique features that can actually provide some amount of value. And recently, I'm someone that does quite a lot of video editing. I've been using a pretty unique device, and that is the Logitech MX Creative Console, and Logitech's actually sponsoring this video, which is awesome, so thank you. Now this has two parts, the keypad, and where I think it really shines is the dial pad. And thanks to the pre-configured profiles for all of the main creative apps, this can improve your workflow right out of the box. Like with the keypad's 9 buttons, which are customizable per page, it pretty much bypasses the need to learn any complicated keyboard shortcuts. And actually, if you purchase the Creative Console, it comes with 3 months free of the entire Adobe Creative Cloud. So even though this does work well with Final Cut Pro or DaVinci Resolve, it is native to the Adobe apps. For something like video editing, the main dial skims through the timeline and the top dial zooms in and out. And on the keypad, I've set a lot of toggle functions that use the dial. Things like adjusting the volume, location, or even exposure of clips. And with the extra buttons on the dial pad, I've set it to play, pause, undo, and also to activate the action ring, which brings up a ring of even more customizable shortcuts. But creation work aside, I also use it to open certain folders, apps, or even use the dial to control things like brightness or volume. And whatever app you're actively in, the profile for the keypad, the dial pad, even the action ring automatically update. And this is just barely scratching the surface, so if you want to figure out how you can use the Creative Console to work for you, I'll leave a link at the top of the description. Okay, now that it's actually turned on and charged up to about 18%, I can actually start to go over what it's like to use it. And immediately what I'm noticing right now is it's far too small of a screen, far too small of a keyboard. I've been fat fingering almost every single key press so far. Oh, it just got noticeably warmer. Everything's popping up on the screen at once. Oh my God, this thing's about to explode, dude. I'm about to explode if I keep mistyping. This is actually so annoying. Oh yeah, I don't even have the June 8th, 2020 update for Instagram right now. That's crazy. And it also says update Twitter, and that's the old Twitter logo. But again, even though YouTube isn't loading here, watching a video on a 4-inch screen is a little too small, especially compared to like the 6.3 inches my iPhone 17 is. Like, look at the difference there. Like, imagine that next to a Pro Max. That would just be shameful for the SE. And actually, kind of a big thing is the SE has a 60 hertz display, as pretty much all phones did back then. A lot of people online say once they have an iPhone with ProMotion, they can't go back. Honestly, since I've been so focused on actually trying to set this up, I didn't even really notice it. But yeah, it's slower, still usable. Like, I don't know, the 120 hertz is a lot smoother. I prefer it, it's better, but it's like, I could go back to 60 hertz and be completely fine. For a phone going on 10 years old, that's a pretty nice display. Of course, I'm not putting into consideration the subtle little scratch at the top there, which I'm not sure if you can notice. Very subtle. One drop of water in here and this thing's blowing up like the Death Star. I honestly don't even know if that selfie camera is gonna work, but we will test that out. But in terms of some other noticeable differences here, the power button is on the top, which unlike newer iPhones, when I say newer, I mean anything within the past like 8 years, it has it on the side. I actually remember when I upgraded from the SE to the iPhone 7, I was not a fan of having the button on the side for whatever the reason, but now that actually makes sense because that's just naturally where my finger rests. And actually when I upgraded from my 11 to the 17, I'm still not fully convinced that the action button for me is better than something like the ringer switch, which the iPhone SE does have. And interestingly, the volume buttons on the SE are circles instead of like the little bars of modern iPhones. And somehow I almost totally forgot to mention that this phone has an audio jack. Like, yeah, obviously there's no action button, there's no camera control button, there's still a physical SIM card slot. Of course, there's no Face ID, not that I'm even sure it would work on this phone, but there is Touch ID, which I am still a fan of. Although obviously the whole button on the bottom does take up screen space, I still think Apple can implement something like Android phones where the Touch ID is just a part of the screen itself. And something about just having like a physical home button to double click to swipe out of your apps or to click to actually go home just makes sense. And with that means when you swipe up from the bottom, you get the control center. And design-wise, it is different. It's definitely not liquid glass, but functionality-wise, it's pretty much identical. I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Okay, I'm gonna start a screen recording on the iPhone SE. Let's see how this goes. Let's see, if we go to the software update, it's trying to install iOS 15.8. That is a few generations behind. I do still think it gets security updates, so thank you, Apple. And then something like storage, 16 gigabytes, right? I can't really see because there's a giant crack on my screen. That would be like impossible to live with in today's world. And then while we're at it, let's check the battery health. 82%. That's not as, I thought that was gonna be like in like the 60s. It's at 46% right now. I'm actually gonna unplug it with the screen recording going. And maybe while I'm at it, I'll open some apps. I'll go to YouTube. Oh my God, it's been a minute and it's down to 43%. Oh, did I just go down to 42 as I said that? Yeah, it's 41%. Since it is a smaller phone, it is a smaller battery, so I guess keep that in mind. And it's 36%. At this point, it's not a battery percentage, it's a timer. Oh, did it just shut off with 30% left? It's an old phone, man. I mean, Apple lists it as vintage. If you have a decent battery in it and you keep it plugged in a lot, it's usable for very few tasks. It's who would buy this? But one of those tasks that I'm about to find out if it is usable for or not is taking pictures and recording video. So I'm gonna bring it outside next to my iPhone 17, take a couple pictures, a quick video, and I'm also gonna just put it on my tripod right there to see what it would look like if I used it to record my YouTube videos. Oh, and how could I forget the front camera? Or I mean, whatever's left of it. I just finished filming. It died again. It was on 75% battery when I started. This is not the nostalgia I hoped for. Now I will be testing the selfie cameras in a second, but first I have to note, getting the footage off of here, I can use AirDrop on both of these phones. Now first up is the photos. Now I'm not big when it comes to specs on a camera. Obviously this only has one camera and it is at 12 megapixels. The 17's is at 48 megapixels. I just think that's worth mentioning. But what's most important is the way the images actually look. So between this picture and this picture, which one do you think is the older iPhone? One of these is a 10-year-old iPhone and one of them is a new iPhone. Now I think this one looks better than this one, but that second one is from the iPhone 17 and the first one is from the SE. And I think the reason why these look so different is the way Apple post-processes them. On older iPhones, it does it differently, and personally, I think it ends up looking better. Like if you look at like the grass and the sky, it's just a lot more vibrant. It just seems like a more like happy image, and then you go to like the 17s and it looks okay. It's just flat, a little bit dull. It's gross. It's disgusting. To me, that is a noticeable step backwards. I also took this video of me just kind of standing around. This is on the iPhone 17. And again, if we go to the SE, I just think the colors look better. And actually towards the end of the SE recording, you can see me lagging out a bunch. It's a little underpowered. But if we bring it back inside in a well-lit scenario, the SE, it's okay. It's a little noisy and grainy in the corner, which I guess is to be expected. This is in 4K 30 frames. And then if we go to the 17, I do think the 17 looks a lot better video-wise here. It's a cleaner image overall, and I think the post-processing makes me look better. But if we go back to the photos, that is a totally different story. But now it's time to test the front cameras. And oh boy, can you tell which one is what? You can almost see me in the SE. And maybe it's important to note that yes, the front camera is just about shattered on the SE, but it can also only record in 720p. So like obviously this part here wasn't gonna be very close from the start, but it was worth it. Video, unanimously, I think we can agree that the 17 is better. But for photos, I think we can almost all agree that the post-processing on the SE is just better. Like it's just a so much more like welcoming image. It's not all just like sterile and flat, but just generally, I think it's less impressive to think how much better the 17 is rather than how well the SE still holds up, especially after like 10 years. But in day-to-day life, obviously the 17 is much better. You know, it doesn't die instantly with 60% battery left, but is getting an SE worth it for anyone? No. I think even if you're looking to get like the more vintage style of phone camera, you're way better off getting like an iPod Touch or an even older iPhone. But I think like one of the best parts about tech isn't always seeing what the latest and greatest can do, but also just revisiting the oldest, especially devices that you used to use every single day. And actually when I found this buried in my closet, I happened to find another Apple device that's even older, so feel free to subscribe if you want to see that. But thank you for watching.